Welcome everyone, thanks for being here. Today I want to start with my best friend's bottle. This is Christian Dior Poison, 1985. It smells like a body that announces itself from across a room and dares you to have a problem with that. I didn't wear Poison. My best friend did, and she picked it up in 1986, the year after it launched, and she wore it through 1989, and she was a committed oversprayer. She trailed a calling card cloud through every room she entered, atomic, unmissable, hers. And I could smell her long before I saw her for years. The bottle in my hand is not her bottle. I bought this one recently and I went and I got it because I wanted to hold the smell of her 20s in my hand and look at it 40 years on. The bottles I actually wore in the 80s were Van Cleef and Arpels first and Guerlain's Ysatis, and I picked up Amarige the moment it landed in 1991. They were loud florals, they were loud, spicy ambers. The same body forward register Poison sat at the high voltage end of. The register my best friend was the loudest case of, and I guess I was the softer cousin version of. You know, we sat in our two adjacent corners of the same room. I'm still wearing a body forward bottle, Bella Versailles. You know, the body before, kept alive into 2026. I am the wrong narrator for this episode because most of you watching grew up inside the register that arrived in the 1990s to make the body of 1985 go away. Clean, transparent, fresh. You came of age inside it the way my friend and I came of age inside our cloud without thinking of either as a position. We both inherited an aesthetic, and the aesthetic were on opposite sides of an argument neither of us was told was happening. This is the episode about what I watched arrive on other people from inside a register I never left, and what I had to buy my best friend's old bottle 41 years on to be able to argue properly about. A generation needed the body to go away, and the fragrance industry doing what it does met the need with extraordinary precision. We were on the wrong side of the line for the new register to absorb us, and that turns out to be its own kind of vantage. We could see what arrived because we could feel what it was replacing. And this is the episode about why the body went away in the 1990s and what it cost and what it looks like to watch the answer become the only thing the category remembers. The 1980s in fragrance were a decade of bodies that took up space. You know, Poison was reportedly banned from some restaurants in Paris in 1985, which is what you say when something is too much, in the way the speaker thinks something should be too much. Edouard Flechesche put honey and tuberose and a coriander note at concentrations the industry had never experienced before. In fact, the industry thought it was excessive, and the fragrance didn't apologize. The body didn't apologize, and neither a year later did my best friend. This is very much the body before the test, before the body became unsafe, before the closet, before an entire generation of people found out that physical closeness, the thing that to some extent fragrance invites, could end them. Before the body became something to be afraid of. You know, poison is the smell of a body that doesn't know yet what it's about to be told. Cool Water came out in 1988. Pierre Bourdon, the first commercially successful fragrance built around cologne, a synthetic molecule discovered in a laboratory that produces the impression of clean water, of marine air, of nothing the body does naturally. And I don't own this one. It arrived on men's bodies in 1988, the year I was wearing Ysatis and my best friend was wearing Poison, and we weren't paying attention to what was about to replace us. Cool Water wasn't marketed as a response to anything. It was marketed as fresh, masculine, modern. But the shape of the demand it met, the demand for a fragrance that smelled like the body had been washed of every trace of its own production, was not, I think, accidental. Issey came out in 1992. Jacques Cavalier, the aspirational version of the cleanliness Cool Water had introduced. This is clean as an aesthetic position. It's clean as an argument. It's clean as a way of being in your body that proposed that there was nothing to be ashamed of, because there was nothing to be smelled. CKOne came out in 1994. Alberto Morillas and Harry Fremont. The campaign was young people looking unbothered, beautiful, ungendered, and most of all, safe. The fragrance was transparent. The bodies in the campaign were transparent, and the relationship those bodies were proposing to each other was transparent. And I'm not claiming that any of these perfumes was consciously making fragrances about AIDS. I am claiming that fragrances emerge from cultures, from moments, from what people need to smell like in order to feel okay about themselves at a specific historical point. And the aquatic register met a need, and the need was specific, and the timing is not a coincidence. The 1990s aquatics dominated a decade because the decade needed it. The body had to be made safe again, not in a medical sense, in an aesthetic one. The fragrance industry, doing what it does, met the need. What's more interesting is what happened after. This is Hermes and Jadin sur le nid. 2005 Jean-Claude Eleanor's Jadin series. This is a garden fragrance, ostensibly. Green mango, lotus, sycamore wood. You know, Eleanor was by 2005 a master of subtractive perfumery, the art of making fragrance by leaving things out. And what he leaves out is the body. The architecture is the architecture of the 1990s aquatic. It's transparent, it's vegetal, the impression of lightness more than the smell of any specific thing. It's doing the same thing the aquatic register did. It's making a clean space where a body might have been. But it is doing it with significantly better tailoring. By 2005, the aquatic register didn't need to argue for itself. This is Molecule 1, Geseshern, 2006. The bottle contains one molecule, Issey Super. Schön's argument was that a single molecule worn properly on the skin, and let me spray it on this side, produces a warmth that reads as a fragrance without ever quite being one. And he's right. Molecule 1 doesn't smell like clean. It smells like warm skin. It's the body's own warmth made into the only note. If the cleanliness register's argument was really that the body should not announce itself, Molecule 1's argument is the body is enough. The body plus one molecule of warmth is the fragrance. It's the cleanliness register's logical conclusion. Not transparency, not erasure, but the substitution of pseudo-skin warmth for the entire fragrance object. The mass market would catch up a year later. This is Dolce & Gabbana, light blue. Pour Homme, 2007. Olivier Cresp. Let me get some skin in, some real estate here. Yep. This is citrus, juniper, oak moss. It's musky. It's built on the light blue 2001 framework. Light blue Homme became one of the best-selling men's fragrances of its decade. It is also, in its bones, the same register Molecule 1 had distilled to a single molecule the year before. Fresh, clean, Mediterranean as a code for a kind of light, professional, contemporary, slightly out of doors masculinity with nothing heavier. Underneath, it's just a lot less radical about it. It's the register that arrived to make the body safe. And it's now what fresh just means. We don't buy these fragrances because they answer a question. We buy them because they are what the category sounds like to us. The question that produced the categories no longer in the conversation. And this is what cultural arguments do once they've won. They stop being arguments. They become defaults. And this is what happens when the default becomes a beauty product. Let's look at Glossier You 2017. Frank Fulkel and Dora Bagriche, both at Firmenich. Fulkel is the perfumer who made Le Labo Santal 33 6 years earlier. Issey Super, by every account that matters, at the center, plus iris and ambrette and ambrox. The same molecule. Molecule 1 was only, but 11 years on, with a small composition built around it. The marketing line of this one is you, but better. By 2017, the cleanliness register's argument had become so naturalized that a major beauty brand could sell its endpoint, the body, dissolved into an idealized version of itself, back to a generation of customers who no longer remembered that there'd been a body to argue about. The body's called you. The argument the bottle's making is that there's no longer a question to be asked. This is 32 years after Poison. I did not come of age in the cleanliness register. I came of age in the loud floral and spicy amber register. The cleanliness register arrived to replace. And it puts me in a strange position to make this argument, and I think the right position. Most of you grew up inside the cleanliness register. You thought fresh and clean were neutral aesthetic categories, the same way an entire generation thought safe was a neutral way to want a body to feel, and none of that was neutral. The people who lived through this have first claim on the telling. I'm bringing a historian's tools to a story other people lived. I'm not telling you the aquatic register is wrong, or that you should reconsider your bottles, or that the smell of clean water is somehow morally compromised. I am telling you that the things you were trained to find beautiful were trained to be that way by a specific historical moment. And that moment had a cost that other people paid. The fragrance got you. The cost was somebody else's. What the great popular fragrances do is meet a culture's moment with extraordinary precision. The 1990s aquatic met the 1990s with extraordinary precision. And the precision itself is its own kind of grief. The bottles in front of me span 32 years. Poison from 1985, the body before. Issey and CKOne from the early 90s, the body retreating. Molecule 1 from 2006, the body dissolved. Light blue Homme from 2007, the dissolution normalized. Glossier You from 2017, the dissolution sold as you to a generation that no longer remembers that there was a body to argue about. The aesthetic that was once a response is now just what fresh means. We are still wearing the answer to a question we no longer remember asking. And it worked mostly. Not completely, but mostly. That's also still worth knowing. The body, after all, is still here. I should know. I've been wearing it for 8 years.